Welcome back to Withdraw Consent. I'm Jack. As you can see, I went down a strange rabbit hole this weekend, but but I was thinking about like from an Israeli perspective. If you were an Israeli, like what would you really want? Well, you would want all this land back, you know? And so I feel like when you're looking at it from their perspective, um God's given you this land in your opinion, right? Now, look at the American settlers, and let's look at Manifest Destiny. The entire idea behind Manifest Destiny was that it was the European man's God-given right to take this country, the United States of America, to take this land, right? And so I mean, look at the comparison between what the settlers are doing. So in the West Bank, they're not allowed. The Israelis are not allowed to make settlements in certain parts of it, right? Well, they've made like 22 brand new settlements since October 7th. They're up to over 300 settlements. They're all illegal by international law, and there's 700,000 people living there illegally in these settlements. And then you look back at American history, and you're like, okay, so the American president would make a treaty with the Indians. Okay, you give us this land, you go over there. But the will of the people was so strong that they didn't even listen to their president, and then they would march into the lands and start taking them that were promised to the Indians because they were nearby, even though there were empty lands on the other side of them. And then the Indians would go to war. You're violating your treaty, but the American president's not violating this treaty. It's the people. It's manifest destiny. It's whether Netanyahu wants them to or not, the Israeli settlers are going to go there. It's these Orthodox Jewish settlers who were you see the videos of them, taking all the supply for Gaza off the truck because they want to ethnically cleanse. The settlers themselves do. And I see just a really close similarity here between Manifest Destiny, where regardless, and I'm not saying Netanyahu's telling them to stop, but even if he did, he would be in the situation that the Americans were in. And then the Indians would rightly go to war because they're in the right here. And then the U.S. Army would go do what it does because it's going to beat them, and then maybe or maybe not there's a massacre after that, and then the Indians are going to take a new deal with land farther away that's eventually going to be encroached on by more Manifest Destiny settlers. And I feel like the similarity is very high between Israel, because if Israel were to get Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem, and this new area of Golan Heights that they've gone into in Syria since that happened, and then, the Jordan, whatever the future thing is, because I already did an article in the past where they wanted to start taking parts of Jordan. They're just going to continue spreading until they're forced not to do so by military force, or lose the support of the United States, of course, or they just have all their lands. And I don't feel like there'll ever be a point where they have all of their lands. Like if they keep acquiring, I don't think they'll stop anywhere. Maybe they will. Maybe times change and political will changes, but the similarity is very good. Now, when we're looking at this, though, keep in mind that we're looking at this. We've already done that in the United States a long time ago, and now we have fully normalized relations with civil rights. And this has only been going on in Israel for, what are we talking, 70 years? Yeah, 76 years. So, or 77, it was the start of the war, whatever. But what I'm saying is, like, 100 years from now, when it's 177 years after 1948, so it's 21, 25, they might be in a perfect situation where the Palestinians have reservations, but they also move freely among the Israeli citizens, and they have their own license plates, and they have their own tribal police, and they have equal rights, and then maybe they have all the casinos. And I'm not joking about this. I'm just saying, like, this could be a thing where there's a complete normalization of relations. And I can't predict the future, but I can look at people and their behaviors. And so here's where I find the dissimilarity between the Manifest Destiny. All of the actions are very similar, but the problem is, one, we can see the future in the United States and the normalization of relations and the equal rights. In the other one, we have to predict what is the future going to look like in Israel 100 years from now for the Arab population is what I mean. And from what we've seen in the past, nobody's ever said, like, just in general, like, Christians, they're just impossible to deal with. How can you deal with these people? They're backstabbing you all the time. They're greedy. They're, but people do say that about Israel. You know what I mean? Like, that's a thing. They break every single ceasefire that they ever start. And you could be like, well, wait a second. Technically, the Americans broke all the ceasefires with the American Indians. I'd say touche, good point. But in those situations, it wasn't the government doing it. Like the government willfully breaks every single ceasefire that they like. Somebody had it on Grok. I mean, I wish I had it on the screen. I'd pull it up, but it was like, maybe I will if I can find it. I'll put a screenshot on the screen. But like they said, how many ceasefires has Israel broken over the course of their history? And it was like 900 and something, some wild number like that. This is their modus operandi. This is what they do. Everybody in the region knows that when they deal with them, they're gonna, they're going to shake your hand one day and the Mossad is going to bomb your building the next day and kill your, whatever in command or your negotiator, the Palestinian negotiator. Let's assassinate the negotiator for peace, like just wild stuff. So what I'm trying to say here is that the nature of Christians is that they always end up getting to a point. They do war and stuff, but they always end up getting to a point of philanthropy. They always end up there. It's baked in to Christianity. The war is not really baked in too much. There's a couple verses you could find in the New Testament for it. But the philanthropy is baked in. So that eventually you're going to get a decent shake when dealing with Christians if they're left to their own devices. So I'm not saying Christians who are, governing the United States right now that are controlled by AIPAC and doing the will of a foreign country. I'm not saying that you're getting the Christian amount of bombs, from that. You're getting the Jewish amount of bombs, or the Israeli amount of bombs, I should say, but well, similar. Anyways, and then when you look at Jewish people and you're like, are they going to treat the Palestinians good 100 years from now? Well, people have disliked these people because of their behavior for thousands of years. And I think the similarity ends there. There's never going to be an equal rights for the Palestinian people. I mean, if you want to go beyond that, if Israel said today, okay, Gazans, West Bank, East Jerusalem, let's do one state solution, right of return. Okay, now this is a thing that the Palestinians do because they know that if they get the right of return, which was mandated that they could return to their land in like 1949, 1950 by the United Nations, that's still in effect today. They can come home from everywhere in the world, but Israel physically won't let them. They'll repel them, incarcerate them, stop them. They can come visit, but they will kick you out of your state so long. So, because Israel knows the deal, that if they did a one-state solution and then all of these people who'd fled the country came back, there's going to be more Arabs than Jews, right? And they want it to be like a Jewish state, a Jewish homeland. And I would say to the Arabs, if you know the nature of these people, if you know what they do, they will find some way to exclude you. Even if they were a minority in the country, they're still going to rule the country. You're not dealing with an honorable people. And so the only solution that the Palestinians should be looking for is a two-state solution, in which case they're going to get screwed over by their next-door neighbor. Just FYI, if you want to just look into the future. It's not a magic ball, though. It's just based on people's behavior. Groups have behaviors. You're dealing with a Muslim, you know what you're going to get. You're dealing with a Christian, you should know what you're going to get, unless they're into some offshoot brand. I mean, it's pretty clear cut. I've dealt with Muslims, I've had great experiences, dealt with Christians, and I've dealt with Jewish people. And you know what you're getting. You're getting a banker, Anyways, I think it was an interesting thought exercise. Didn't really come to nothing because there are similarities, though. So I can put myself in their shoes and say, yeah, nah, if I were them, I would be pushing for it too. But also the methods. Now, okay, there's another point too. If one of the things that proves their behavior is the genocide, the ethnic cleansing. And you can say, well, there was genocide and ethnic cleansing of the American Indians. And you can. Now, if you want to go back to the smallpox blankets, which is where people normally go, there's multiple accounts from different Indian tribes that this happened. They were given blankets and it's kind of in their oral tradition. And there's zero concrete evidence. It may have happened. It may not have happened. If it did happen, there's no way to determine that it was intentional. Like if you're immune from smallpox and there's some smallpox disease in the blankets and you hand them, there's no way unless there's a confession. And since there's no concrete evidence, there's no confession. I'm not saying bad things didn't happen. We know about Wounded Knee. If you Google it, you can get like the top 4 massacres, and there's hundreds of people being killed. My best friend was American Indian, and They brought his tribe to eat, basically, to eat with them. And there's like 70 men in the tribe or something like that. And they poisoned and killed every one of them. And because it was in California, basically what happens is California only recognizes your Indian ancestry through your father's line. So basically in this entire tribe, there were no men left. There were only women. So all the women had to go to men of other tribes. And so technically that tribe doesn't even get Indian benefits today. So like my friend just lived and died his whole life, and he never got benefits as if he was in India, but he was. His mother was, his sister is, the whole thing. Anyways, so I do recognize that there's terrible treatment of the Indians, but I wouldn't say, even if you do percentages, and I don't buy this. They do this thing with the American Indians where they say, oh, there was 6 billion, American Indians here, and now there's only, this many million. Look how many of them were killed. Well, they totally inflate those numbers so much it's not 6 billion. I'll look it up and put it on the screen what they say the current number is on the high end, and it's way higher than it was. So they make it look like the white people killed a larger percentage than they did. White people did kill some of them, I'll admit that. But like right now, they're herding all of the people in Gaza into a very small confined area. I literally saw a video, and some of the guys are just walking out of the confined area and just walking towards the IDF. And they're just like in a daze. They're just so hungry they want to die. Their family has to eat, and they got to go provide. So they're just walking towards them, and the IDF is just shooting the ground, and then the IDF just guns them down. It's literally the end of East of Eden. Literally the end of the book. Oh, no, it's Grapes of Wrath. Sorry, John Steinbeck. And at the end of the book, they're just starving to death. They've tricked them, Dust Bowl migrations to go from Oklahoma to California. And the guy just walks on the ranch, and then on the farm, and the guy says, don't do it. He picks up the chicken, turns around, walks away. The guy shoots him in the back with a shotgun. Babies floating down the river, book's over. I'm saying, like, this is how they're treating the people. Anyways, you either agree or you don't. That's my pitch. I think it was interesting to think about, and that's all I got for you. Hope to see you next week.